King James Virgin, where each and every week Adam and Alan recount Bible stories from their childhoods to me. I've never heard them before. My name's Nick.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Adam.
So this week, hey, guess what?
What?
Another story that after I did some research turns out to be probably totally not true.
Really?
I'm honestly getting a little tired of these. Like, I kind of want a story that the history, the outside the Bible history is like, oh yeah, this happened. It's a little blown out of proportion.
All checks out.
I mean, because this would be one of the many that I actually thought there are lots of different cultural references to this one.
So everyone,
Yeah, we should probably say what we're doing.
we're talking about Noah and the flood. So Nick, what do you know about Noah and the flood?
Well, I've seen The Simpsons where they did it. And Springfield floods. Homer gets a boat.
A big boat?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. I know the gist, I think.
Now, have you seen the Steve Carell follow-up to Bruce Almighty, Evan Almighty?
Oh, wow. No. I don't know if I've seen Bruce Almighty.
Yeah,
that might be a Patreon bonus content in the future. Adam
we all
recounting.
just watch it.
Jesus. I don't think. No, I'm good.
Okay, so I think God tells Noah that it's going to flood and tells him to get a boat and get animals, one of each sex and kind.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you basically nailed it.
And then it floods and he takes them all to a place, maybe Mount Sinai.
I mean, you're relatively close. You're pretty good.
All right.
I mean,
you're pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we done? Do we just that's end of the podcast?
Well, sorry, guys.
Yeah,
that was a first for me.
Yeah, no, you actually nailed it.
Not a virgin.
Yeah.
Turns
Thank
out.
you, The Simpsons.
The Simpsons did it.
You got to second base on this one.
So the fun thing is just before we even get started is I had heard that a lot of cultures had a story of
there's like the Polynesian
flood.
story. There's the
on the back of a turtle.
Right.
So the theory with this one is Moses. Let's see. It was oral tradition for a long time.
And I think we talked about this in maybe the Jonah episode, but like the first couple books of the Bible are written by Moses, theoretically, who lived during the Egyptian era. And so like a lot of the stuff that is happening in the Bible happened thousands of years before he was alive.
Yeah. So in theory, Moses wrote this down between 1300 and 1200.
Okay.
And then if you take literally the series of events
BC
that would lead up to this, it was about 3000.
Okay.
So it'd been, nearly 2000 years since it happened.
So it'd be like me writing down. Actually, this podcast is exactly what Moses did.
It'd be a game of telephone.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Thank you, future.
It's a game of telephone over 2000 years. So what we have written record of earlier from about 2700, which is a lot closer to 3000, turns out, is like these stone tablets that archaeologists uncovered about Gilgamesh, where it's the same story, where Gilgamesh took his family aboard a big boat, survived a flood, took animals of different kinds.
Okay.
And so that was written in like 2700 about Gilgamesh. And so they think that the flood story that Moses wrote down and the Gilgamesh one,
you just co-opted Gilgamesh.
It was just the same. It's Hercules to Samson.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, it's all the same.
Yeah, it's
start. Also at 3000, the Egyptians were thriving and built pyramids.
Right.
So the world obviously wasn't ended.
Right.
There are some archaeological records of extra sediment and maybe a pretty big regional flood.
I was going to say, I vaguely remember there being some sort of like Christian paleontologist who was coming to school. It was like trying to use sedimentary levels. I
love that shit. And honestly, we should do a bonus episode on like Christians justifying these major events because it's awesome. They go out of their way.
I mean, you'd have to.
But like the Tigris and the Euphrates could have flooded and caused a little bit of the Mississippi flooding.
And that time scale would make more sense.
Asimov has a fun theory that a meteorite landed in the
the Black Sea,
the Persian Gulf.
Oh, the Persian Gulf,
and caused a tidal wave to push everything north.
No,
because the Bible does talk about like the land erupting. It's not just like rain.
Yeah.
And he's like, it'd be that's a theory.
There are like some Christian scientists who, and I don't know what the validity within the Christian scientist community of this, but one of the things was floated, at least in my science classes.
Good one.
Was that this was Pangea.
I was just going to say that.
Oh, wow.
The flood is what caused the continents to break up.
Or like that's when it happened.
Huh.
Because like it was like trying to take this like theory of Pangea and go and like see everything was connected, and then God like ripped it all apart.
What's fun is that like shoots another justification right in the face, because if every land animal died and Pangea happened at the same time, then like how did species get to South America?
Right.
Because they're like,
yeah,
they could be like, we used Pangea too early.
Yeah. There's a few holes in this story. I was gonna say there's another,
but not the boat.
Not the
boat. Man, I'm just gonna keep making.
I'm enjoying this.
Sea puns.
And last like historical thing before we actually get into the story. Is in the Bible says like, and a great flood covered the whole world.
Yeah. Okay.
And Asimov. Again, I'm using the Asimov Guide to the Bible heavily.
I really like that you're getting so much like mileage out of this.
So good. Everyone buy it.
Bigger than the Bible.
It is bigger than my rather large Bible.
Yeah.
He said he kind of compares it to the Alexander the Great. And he conquered the world, and he wept for there were no other worlds to conquer, when in reality he had conquered like 2% of the world's landmass.
Yeah.
So, the phrase all the world,
quote unquote, the world,
over 2,000 years can be pretty stretched out. Mm-hmm. So anyway, now that we've lost everyone.
Yep.
Adam, let's start the story.
Let's do the story.
All right. So, I'm actually spacing on where Noah is located, so I'm just gonna say somewhere in
Baltimore.
It's Canaan.
Yeah, Baltimore. He's in Baltimore. It's in Canaan. Oh, it's Canaan. So just Canaan. Is Canaan the actual region, or is it? Because it feels like Canaan moves around a bit.
Canaan is like all of like Israel and Syria up to Turkey.
Okay.
And then it goes down into like the Arabian Peninsula quite a bit.
So what most Americans think is the Middle East, but really isn't the Middle East.
The Middle East.
Okay. So
it stops at Egypt, so it's a pretty fair. The Middle East. It's
okay. So Noah is a godly dude. Has 3 sons, and they are all married. And God at some point comes to Noah and goes, "Listen, the world's just gotten to the point where I can't do anything about it, and I'm going to just wipe the slate clean and start over. I want you to start preaching and telling people that I'm going to destroy the world with a flood, and they are going to help you build a boat."
So here's the fun part. I was looking for that, and maybe I skimmed over it. I do not see him preaching to people about turning around at all. And that was definitely part of something I grew up with as well.
Yes, because it was very a cautionary tale from not listening to.
Totally. It's God being like, I'm going to kill everyone. Noah's a good guy. I'm going to tell him to build a boat. Flood kills everyone. But I definitely grew up with like a long period. The beginning of the movie, in my mind, is like Noah just preaching and everyone calling him an idiot.
Yeah.
That's not in the Bible.
That's not.
What's fun though, what is in the Bible is part of the wickedness of man.
Yeah.
Is that basically evil angels were coming down and breeding with the hot women on earth and creating giants.
What? Yeah, that tracks.
In the Bible.
Oh, a little side note on the science, like Christian Science thing as well.
Okay.
Not Christian Science, but Christian scientists thing.
Tell me something about giant bones.
Not giant bones, but dinosaurs also were wiped out by the flood.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. But we have,
which is, by the way, because of the whole Pangea shit, that's how you get the different sedimentary levels. And like you start like going round and round and round. And like, that's how like all of this things that should have taken millions of years happen.
Christian Science reading rooms. Is that what that is?
No.
Okay.
No, weirdly not related.
Can we get one of those people on?
Sure.
Probably. Do they exist anymore?
Another fun fact, the floodwaters receding is what caused the Grand Canyon.
Yep.
Happened all at once.
Yep. Really anything that you can sort of equate to land masses moving and water.
Also, the religion we grew up with has the second largest group of hospitals in the entire world.
How is that related to this? Wait, what?
The fact that like we believe in this crazy science
okay.
and yet we're making them doctors.
Yeah, I see.
Like,
yeah, you lost both Adam and I there for a minute. But yeah. Yeah. I thought you were trying to tell me that in your religion, they said Pangea broke apart and all of our hospitals emerged.
I'm also okay with that. I mean, additionally to that, I believe it's the second to the Catholic Church, the largest education. Totally
system,
private education system.
And they believe the Grand Canyon happened in like a week.
So enough bragging. Continue with the story.
And I don't know. I honestly don't know if this is part of it, but I believe precipitation up until this point did not exist.
Yeah, I agreed. That's what I was raised with as well. Yeah, rain wasn't a thing.
Wow. Yeah, so he had to tell him that there was a flood and go into great detail about
which is part of the reason
water is
going to fall from the sky.
Sometimes you drink it, but this time.
So up until this point,
that's why the town people made fun of him because they're like, rain doesn't.
Water from the sky.
But again, that's not in the Bible at all.
It's not.
I don't know where that came from.
Jesus Christ. Well, no. Not Jesus Christ.
Having said that, I did read all of this yesterday and today, so I could have skipped over it, but I was looking for it.
Yeah, that must just be from Bible class
or
commentary
tradition talking about it. Yeah. Again, over thousands of years.
The idea was that dew would happen, and so you'd get moisture from.
Wait, are you telling me about
I'm explaining
precipitation?
I'm explaining from what the idea before. Okay. And so basically all of the water was just from night excretion of waters. You come up with a better phrase. I mean, night excretion does.
When you wake up and your underwear is wet in the morning.
Night excretions. Yeah. So precipitation apparently didn't exist before this, or maybe it did, according to the Bible. Tweet us. Tell us what your guys
Giants also existed.
Giants existed, and the dinosaurs were hanging out with them as well. All of these things, and unicorns.
That sounds so much more fun.
Yeah. So Noah.
In a world without rain.
Exactly. Actually, I still haven't seen Darren Aronofsky's Noah.
I haven't either.
And it was one of those things that I missed when it came out and meant to come catch up on. But
isn't there that gal from Harry Potter in it?
Hermione?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Isn't she in it?
I mean, the wives and daughters don't have a huge part in the story.
Well, they do in that version.
Apparently. I think it's Russell Crowe. So there's that.
Okay.
Anyway, Noah may or may not be preaching. Come join me, help build it. But regardless, he and his sons start building this giant ship.
Mm-hmm.
There's dimensions.
Oh, right. It's only
cubits.
Cubits?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to give cubits?
The ark shall be 300 cubits. Its width 50 cubits and its height 30 cubits.
And did we look up what a cubit was?
450 feet long, 75 feet wide, 45 feet high. It's big. It's approximately 500 railroad boxcars.
What? Wow.
That's a lot.
In
that's a big
area.
One.
Yeah.
Or volume, I mean. In volume.
Yeah. But that's as good. It's like a...
it's got to cram a lot of animals on there.
I'm still
it's like a small oil tanker. Because it is long and wider than it's tall.
Yeah. Presumably fairly flat bottomed.
It doesn't say that. It is made out of gopher wood.
I do remember that. I do remember gopher wood from the wooden gophers.
I don't know what that is.
Well, they killed them all building the ark.
I think that different translations have different wood types.
It may just be
because gopher wood honestly doesn't sound familiar to me. I feel like it was like cypress or something.
Maybe it's a colloquialism. Anyway,
there are North American trees that are gopher wood.
South American,
just North American.
Oh, okay. Well,
Pangea.
I mean, I was saying that was
Baltimore.
Stick with the Pangea. Yeah, Baltimore, Canaan.
Also, you shall make it with a lower, second, and third decks. You shall make a window for the ark, and you shall put a door in the side.
Just one window.
Yep.
How many? That is true for the bird.
The images.
All right. So, they're building. Townspeople are mocking them. It's now. I mean, given that there's no internet, this is their.
I mean, is that in there now?
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
Really?
No.
So he's just in this by this story. He's just a crazy man with his three sons in the middle of nowhere.
Not crazy. Just God told him to build an ark. He built the ark.
Townspeople don't exist.
You just said God told him to. Crazy.
God told him to build the ark. He built the ark. Well, I mean, okay, yes.
Anyway,
if this were real, he would be crazy.
God's talking to everybody in little tidbits. So
yeah. See, this is like
just not since the Bible ended.
I feel like the 20th and 21st century would be a lot more interesting if God was willy-nilly talking to people. Well, he might be.
Well, now we just we get them help.
Yes. We medicate God away.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
I mean, where was I? Oh, building the ark. I'm just going to skip ahead to finish. They finished the ark.
Yeah, ark's done.
Okay, ark has been constructed.
Let it rain.
I mean, nothing much happens. Well, first, suddenly this whole line of animals in pairs of 2, except for the clean ones, I believe. Is this true?
Correct.
So by Jewish canon, and this might be a Moses edition. This feels like a Moses trying to nail down the clean unclean meat.
You want to explain to Nick about clean and unclean meat?
So, and it's been a minute, but there's a whole set of rules for what the Israelites post Egyptian occupation. I guess when really in occupation, they were slaves in Egypt. When Moses takes them out to the desert, God hands down a whole bunch of rules on basically how not to kill themselves while traveling through the desert. Mm-hmm. And one of the big chunks is the clean and unclean meats, things that you can eat and things you can't eat. You can't eat unclean meats.
Though the story is way before that.
Right. But if Moses is writing, this feels like a way of him hammering down.
That's fair.
Anyway, clean meats, they have to have a cloven foot. They have to chew their cud. They have to do a bunch of things. And it basically that's why pigs are unclean, but cows are clean. And
basically any animal that eats other animals you can't eat.
Right. Okay. That's the big
and then there's things about draining the blood first, and
yeah, there's a whole process of things. And then being this is where kosher laws come from. The completely kosher, you can't mix your dairy and your meat, and there's a bunch of things that
this is why they don't eat bacon.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
Moses.
Real Christians don't eat bacon.
Well, anyway,
lost our audience. Anyway, but the clean meats come in comes in groups of 7, which seemed like a weird.
Nailed it.
Maybe it's one.
It's just a Bible number.
Yeah. So, but then everything else comes in, male and female, so we can repopulate the earth.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
So they all just start showing up, and they start being, assigned cabins, and locked into their different spaces.
They just show up. He doesn't have to do anything.
Correct.
It both says that he's supposed to collect all the animals, and they kind of show up.
Okay.
He collects the dumb ones, convenient. And the smart ones figure out how to get to him. Mm-hmm. That's an Adam editorial. That's not canon. It's now canon. So they get everybody on the boat and lock themselves in, and nothing happens. And people outside the boat start coming up and throwing fruit and mocking. This is again,
is that?
This is editorializing, but they are mocking them.
Totally editorializing. There's a lot of Far Side cartoons.
Oh yeah, lots
with the dinosaurs being wait, it's Thursday,
right? Or the
see the
unicorn,
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen a lot of Far Side cartoons about missing the ark.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Classic.
Great setup.
But are there not people? Are there not crowds of people at that point?
No.
Wow. So nowhere. Hanna-Barbera is failing me hard.
Well, they had to dramatize it. It basically is God being okay, in 7 days, it's going to flood.
In 6 days, it's going to flood.
And then, and Noah did according to all the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were on the earth.
Oh yeah, Noah's
and 7 days later, it came to pass, the waters of the flood were on the earth.
Yep. So it starts raining. The
it's
earth.
Not great story.
But I believe, doesn't it say the earth breaks open at this point too?
Yeah.
So the earth breaks open, all of the waters of the deep. I'm doing quote hands.
Yeah, air quote.
Start coming up. Is that right? Waters of the deep.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Okay,
that's definitely what I was raised with as well.
So everything starts coming, and this boat doesn't have any form of directional movement. It doesn't have a sail or anything. It's just
a floater.
So what you had said, yeah, and you had said it goes somewhere. They don't go anywhere. They just float wherever the waves take them. So they're out there.
Is God taking them to a place though?
Not really.
Yeah, no, not really.
They kind of just go up and back down.
Actually up and a fair bit to the northwest, which is why Asimov thinks there was a tidal wave.
That would
because otherwise, if it was the rivers overflowing, they would have floated south.
So Asimov is claiming that somebody had enough prior warning that something was going to happen that they built a boat and actually floated away from.
Yes.
Yeah, they got that little ache in their knee.
All right.
Well, it's never rained before.
It's never rained before, but that light's getting brighter. So anyway, I mean, is Ararat in the Bible, or is that just post-Christian bullshit?
No, Ararat is in the Bible. Okay. But so you're missing the length.
Yeah, I'm jumping way ahead. Sorry. So they're out there for 40 days and 40 nights.
Wrong. That's what blew my mind. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. They were in the ark. Can you guess?
70.
Nick, would like to posit a guess?
8 crazy nights.
Over a year.
Okay, then I take it back. The timeline for a tidal wave doesn't track.
No. But so they boarded the ark in the second month on the 17th day.
Okay.
So February 17.
Or
whatever. And then they left the ark in the second month on the 27th day.
So yeah, just like barely over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Did they take their wives?
Yes. Sorry. So Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives.
Okay.
Correct.
So there's 8.
Otherwise, I was just thinking of them going like, Happy Valentine's Day. Bye.
Bye. I mean, it's almost as bad. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm going to shove you in a big, like a small, like at this point, a small boat with a lot of stinky animals for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and then it stopped, and then it kept being a lot of water for 150 days.
Okay.
And then they saw mountaintops.
Right. So they start seeing land, and that's where the one window comes into play, because he starts sending out a dove.
That was after 10 months. He sent a raven and a dove.
Raven and a dove. Raven doesn't come back.
The raven does not come back.
Yeah. Raven's like, fuck this shit, and is out.
Yeah.
But the dove.
He flies for 2 straight months.
Does the dove come back and then without anything initially?
The dove comes right back, and then he waits a week.
And it's like, he basically sending the dove out a bunch. Eventually, however many days.
Just a week.
At the very end, the dove comes back with an olive leaf, which is supposed to be proof like there's dry land somewhere.
Which is where that
And here we get the
symbol comes from.
Yeah. And
it's an olive branch.
Yeah. So I don't know, had they settled at that point? Because it's if they were still in the water.
They settled on the mountaintops.
Okay.
This is
Mount Ararat.
This is the interesting thing. It's in the Bible says in the mountains of Ararat. So Ararat was actually like more of a region.
Oh.
But thousands and thousands of years later, there's a greater and minor Ararat.
Right. Which is where it's in Turkey, which is where like Christian scientific expeditions that go to try to find the
greater.
ark.
So
right.
Typically thought that it's on greater Ararat.
But this is like a contemporary controversial thing, right? Like, don't different groups of people go to different places? Like, isn't there a belief that there are
pretty much everyone
different...
believes it's this one greater Ararat.
Well, and this one isn't. I don't think this is like. It's not like Jerusalem where it's like a holy place for multiple religions, or Mecca for Islam. Like, it's not like.
Yeah, I don't know why. For some reason, I felt like I had read that there was like some wider debate about where this actually is.
I mean, as a child, just since Turkey is sort of an Islamic state, it was considered like this dangerous thing to go. And I remember like having these like mission spotlight things where people would come back with like photos of like this vague blocky shape on the side of a mountain that's like, this is the ark. We found the ark.
It's like satellite imagery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's great.
Early satellite imagery.
It's great Ararat and little Ararat.
Okay. And so, yeah, they're settled. And so once they get the olive branch, they bust the door open, let everything out. And they're like, hooray, we've survived. And then God, it doesn't say he speaks. He just like, it's just declared that this is his covenant, right?
They took extra, no, God talks a lot.
Okay.
They took extra animals to
sacrifice
right? Afterwards.
Which, if I remember right, the sacrificing of animal, no, there's Cain and Abel. Never mind. I was gonna say that it was instituted with the Israelites post Egypt, but that's not true.
Yeah. And the Lord smelled a soothing aroma. And the Lord said in his heart.
That's a big aroma to get way up there.
for God to go, yeah.
Well, if they opened the doors of the ark, I'm assuming it was a different aroma.
True. Yeah.
Maybe God's real into BO and horse poop.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Then the Lord said in his heart, I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, although the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Nor will I again destroy every living thing as I had done. Which, to me, contradicts Revelation.
It does, and maybe they should tell the Christians that, given the state of,
God said
currently.
God said, "Oh, is this an argument against global warming?"
I mean, it could be.
God said he'd never destroy mankind.
Well,
again.
when you were describing God telling Noah this, I was thinking of Al Gore giving us the inconvenient truth. So
yeah,
it's all there.
Is God Al Gore
with a beard?
With a beard, or Al Gore God a beard? I don't. Yeah. Anyway, so the way that he shows his covenant is to have a rainbow, and so this is theoretically the first rainbow that has ever existed
because there's never been rain.
Because there's.
Nah.
God. Okay.
Which I loved, like in high school, I got very tickled by the juxtaposition between the LGBT community's use of the rainbow flag and the Christian kind of
covenant with God.
Yeah. And like the fact that like it felt very nicely appropriated.
Yeah. And like nice Christians, like my grandparents will always, like anytime they see a rainbow, they'll be like,
the flood.
It's God's covenant, and they'll like kind of launch into telling the same story again.
Oh,
wow,
that's weirdly charming.
It sort of is, except now all they do is watch like the NFL and Fox News.
Well, that's less charming.
Just like I miss when they were good Christians, because now they're. I mean, I guess the definition of good Christian.
No, you're absolutely right.
The definition of good Christian has just shifted.
Yeah. No, Christianity's gotten real angry.
Just guns and football.
So that's the story of the flood.
So they did start watching football because it turns out like my grandpa's sister's grandson is the quarterback of the Eagles.
Let's get him on.
Yeah.
Apparently. And they were doing well a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Were they in the big game?
The big football thing? I know this is the worst group of people to ask.
Go sports.
But yeah, do you want to talk about like the aftermath after a break?
Yeah.
Well, then we'll be right back here on the King James Virgin. And we're back here on the King James Virgin.
Okay, so you want to talk about the aftermath?
I would love to.
Yeah. So
what happens then?
Nothing happens with the animals. The animals go out and start humping and making more baby animals.
Yep.
Presumably.
Under the beautiful rainbow.
Under the beautiful rainbow, there's just...
You think there were any that we don't have now that like didn't get around to fucking?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because that would teach them a lesson?
Mm-hmm. No.
I
mean, no. God like inspired mass horniness for this. So everything just like... It's not like pandas where they just won't mate in captivity. They just all are mating.
Yeah. Ironically, with the use of a rainbow.
I mean, have they tried putting a rainbow over the pandas?
Maybe that's the problem.
That's the problem. All right. So I think this is kind of my favorite / like least favorite part of the story. It's my favorite because it just like everything goes to shit. So Noah basically has post-flood funk.
Well, it's a little while later because it says he began to be a farmer and planted a vineyard. So I presume this was a year later.
Right. I mean, it's a little bit later, but like it's like post-adventure funk. Like nothing's going to be as like my glory days are spent because he basically just gets like starts getting
also
drunk.
He's 600 something.
Yeah. But everybody was living to like in their 900.
He lives to 950.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's just like, he's getting drunk a lot and just kind of like depressed all the time.
Yeah.
And one day he is so drunk that he's completely naked, exposed to the world in his like, is he in his bed? Or do they move him to his bed? Is the bed
uncovered in his tent?
Yeah.
That's what the Bible says.
He's in his tent, just showing his junk to the world. And his sons.
I will say the addition that I heard frequently was that he had masturbated.
Oh, I had not gotten that.
Yeah. That's just something that I like.
Wow, that they added on
nakedness.
That's a weird tidbit to add in.
It is very weird, but
it's par for the course.
Stuck.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So his three sons, Sham, Ham, and Japheth. Ham,
actually.
Did I say Sham? Sorry, Shem. Ham, Japheth.
Ham.
Remember Ham.
Oh, I will not forget Ham.
So, is this where being a ham comes from?
Absolutely not.
All right.
It's where Hamite comes from.
Well, no, but I mean like the term being like hamming it up. Okay. Anyway, so we should look that up because that might be.
No.
Do you have something else that it is?
No. But it's probably not that. It's way worse things.
Yeah. Anyway, so the three sons find him, and basically in order to like...
No. Ham finds him, sees him naked, and tells his two brothers.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, who cares? But yes, that happens. They then cover him up. In the process, though, Ham starts making fun of his dad and laughing at his dad.
So that was added. Basically, Ham sees him and tells his brothers, and then his brothers walk backwards so they don't see him and cover him with a cloak.
Really? That's it. That's it.
Just
that's the reason?
Yeah.
Jesus. So, and this might be a racist trigger warning. The Bible then goes on to assert that because of this, Ham is cursed.
Well, Noah awoke from his drunken stupor and cursed his son.
Okay. Noah curses him, and God apparently just takes this and then runs with it. And then, at least from the pulpit,
It's actually just Noah. No God.
No God?
Yeah.
Noah has this power?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not going to claim that this is a biblical thing, but I'm definitely going to say that this was from the pulpit. What was told to us is the descendants of Ham became the Africans.
Oh.
And the reason that Africa has been subjugated so many times by different European nations was because of this curse.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
Bible.
That's what Christians, specifically the Mormon church, made them okay with slavery.
Oh, Bible.
So, right? Would you like to know what the Bible actually says?
Yeah.
Because the Christians aren't wrong totally in their interpretation.
Okay, I was going to say interpretation. I think we can agree. I think at least at this table we can agree.
They're wrong.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
So the Bible says, cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants. He shall be to his brethren. And may Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth. Japheth becomes anything not Middle East.
Oh.
And may he dwell in tents of Shem. Blah, blah. Basically, and may Canaan be his servant.
So that's the basis of basically white supremacy as well.
It's basically saying
enlarging Japheth.
That the descendants of Ham, the Hamites, will be the servants of the other two. So that's what they use to justify slavery.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's a little messed up. So in actuality, the Hamites are a group of people. It's basically Egypt.
Oh.
Right,
because the world is not the whole world.
Yeah, the world is the Middle East plus Egypt.
Interesting.
They didn't even know Italy existed.
Ironically too, this feels like some Moses propaganda as well, given that because this would have been written literally in the same time that the Egyptians were ruling the world. Well, the known world, they were on top of the.
So Egypt was still the Egyptians were definitely ruling Egypt, but they were also up in Canaan. And hold on first. So the Hamites become Egypt basically. The descendants of Shem become
Shemites.
The Semites.
Oh.
Which I was like, that's where that comes from.
So it should be the Shemites.
It's a Greek translation. And then the descendants of Japheth become not that.
Just everybody else.
Yeah. So England.
Yeah. But
in reality, it's more like Turkey.
Right.
And India, actually.
That's a pretty big spread.
Yeah. It's just not
those other two.
Yes.
Interesting.
And so when Moses wrote this, they would be taking back Canaan from the Hamites, and so the Semites would be subjugating the Hamites to slavery.
Yeah, but they also had
this was a bit of a justification.
But they'd also just beat the Hamites, quote unquote, in Egypt.
Yeah,
it just feels like some propaganda shit.
It totally is. So
I think this is one of the more interesting things that I'm learning as an adult going through this now is how much of this feels like regional and time specific propaganda.
Oh, incredibly. It's all written to be applicable at the time it was written.
Yeah.
They didn't, do you think Moses thought that people would be taking everything he said more than literally 3,000 years later?
The man had a conversation with a fiery bush. I don't know if...
Yeah, but he probably didn't. He probably told people he did to gain clout.
Yeah.
He was probably a smart enough guy to not.
That is interesting crazy. To look at, 500, let's say 2,000 years in the future and think Donald Trump just like lying about shit, and then like that becoming canon, and the lies becoming, I don't know. I think it could be an interesting. It's an interesting idea, like not realizing the ramifications from like in 2,000 years.
Sure, it's the history does not remember everyone.
Yeah.
So like history remembers the people who made a big impact, whether positive or negative.
Yeah.
So, they remember the Beatles and Hitler. But, not a lot else.
Right. And they take the Constitution literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So I just, yeah.
But yeah,
it's helpful.
Horrible racism.
It's helpful to know the political context at the time it was written.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to like pour through whenever we finish this podcast, I might have to pour through the Asimov book because that sounds fascinating.
It is. So Nick, did you see that one coming?
No, and it made me not want to riff on anything. It just made me sad.
Because that's the thing. Is like it's not
even the Christians really taking it out of context.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just a really shitty.
Like Adam,
thing.
I mean, I'm sure there will be plenty of other times in this podcast that we have to slog through a section of the Bible that's like,
but not.
I would say this is one
local,
of the.
Yeah. You think this is going to be the
like this
as far reaching?
This is more. So this passage, I think, has greater weight than a lot of the other things they cling to.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like
actually, I would say the thing the Bible hammers in the hardest is the dietary things, like the clean and unclean meat.
Yeah, if
I think
you're
of
taking
anything in
Leviticus
the Bible. Yeah, well, I mean, do not kill, but and no other gods.
Yeah, I mean, and New Testament, you've got a lot of do not judge lest you be judged, and like.
But it repeats this racism thing twice. Yeah. But it only talks about like that homosexuality is wrong. I think 2 times.
Yeah, and side by side with that, you can't touch the flesh of a pig. Which
or wear cotton and linen at the same time. Like you can be stoned for both those offenses.
And if your daughter like talks back to you, you can stone her.
Oh yeah, you can stone your children. Actually, the Bible is way pro killing your kids.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a toddler.
Oh God, I mean, I don't want to stone him.
Right.
Not always.
No, but like
I'm like, damn it! I told you not to wear cotton and linen.
Why are you eating bacon? That's unclean.
Well, I guess that'll do it for this episode of the King James Virgin.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at KJVPod. We are posting different photos. If you missed it last week, we had some awesome photos of the boob cakes that Evie described during
Photos,
yeah, paintings, I guess. That Evie described during her Catholic Corner. Also, we would love it if you would, rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, but really just tell a friend about the podcast. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks to Mascaras and Resurrection Records for the use of our theme song, Kixari, off the album El Moren. And you guys know what we're doing with the Resurrection Records artists. This week, artist is King Flamingo. It was the closest we could come to something animal. You can listen to that and every other song that we have posted here on our website, kingjamesvirgin.com.
That'll do it for us here on the King James Virgin. Until next week, go find that missing raven.
Yeah.
Well, you say that you always love me, and you're always gonna stand by me. Well, darling, don't you fear. Just whisper in my ear and tell me that you die for me. 'Cause if my plane comes crashing down, but you better join me in the ground. And if you say that it really is love, well, you better drop the dryer in the tub. Well, you know that I'll always love you. I'd do anything for you. Well, I'll show you how to do it. There's really nothing to it. 'Cause baby, I would
back.
I totally forgot this amazing thing that like to add to the weird like science Christian hybrid thing. I very distinctly remember this speech that was that happened either in like school or maybe some sort of like church outing. But a scientist told us that before the flood, there were just gemstones.
Can I put scientists in air quotes here?
Yes. I mean, this person had a degree.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But like there were gemstones and gold and just like on top of the ground. And part of this whole Pangea like separation upheaval was that like all of the like the precious metals and gems were now forced underground. Additionally, I think food was also just like on the ground because what you looked up, Nick, that Noah is what the first winemaker and the first tiller of soil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no farmers pre-Noah for the first 1,000 years
of human civilization. I mean, I guess that kind of tracks with nomadic people.
Only the first like 500 years because the Garden of Eden might have been like that. Sure, 500 years.
I mean, to a certain extent, that does track with like a nomadic peoples before we developed like quote unquote civilization where we started tilling the soil. So
it's like pre-Bronze Age.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I had to come back. And if you listen this far, thank you so much for listening to the song. Make sure you actually here's what we'll do. If you can post something about the King James Version on Twitter or Instagram and just DM us, or actually don't even DM us, just like post, like tag us and we'll send you a free sticker. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Produced by Sonic Bazaar.